With the DCU on the rise and us knowing that we're getting a new Batman, it's no secret that Batman's costume and what he's going to look like in this universe is a topic of discussion. And while there are things that matter way more to the character, like how he's portrayed and how he's written, the suit definitely matters to a certain degree. And because of the fact that we've had a plethora of live-action Batman suits, fans really want this one to be special and unique. And when I say unique, I don't mean unique in the sense that it deviates from what people like in the source material. I actually mean unique in the sense that it kind of replicates the source material, because every Batman costume that we've gotten, while it has elements that are comic accurate, none of them have truly been comic accurate. And just to clarify, this isn't me saying that we haven't gotten good Batsuits, because we have, but we just haven't gotten the Batsuit in my personal opinion. The closest to it is probably Ben Affleck's Batsuit in BVS, but even that one has some flaws that I personally think could easily be changed. That being said, in this video, I'm going to be explaining how I designed the DCU Batsuit. And this video won't just be me saying I want this and I want that without any actual explanation on how to achieve said thing, because in the event that James Gunn somehow happens to come across this video, I would actually want him to try and implement the things that I mentioned. So every aspect of the suit that I mentioned will have an in-depth explanation, and I'll also explain how they can make it make sense in continuity and help the audience suspend their disbelief. But before we get into the video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you enjoy the content, and please also hype the video if you have that feature available. It would mean a lot. Diving right into the topic, we're going to be starting off with, in my opinion, the most important aspect of Batman's suit, and that is the cowl. And that's because, in my opinion, even if the suit itself looks pretty fine, if the cowl is bad, the suit's just going to be bad. Like, it just is what it is. I don't make the rules. That being said, because of the fact that we've had a lot of Batman adaptations, we've seen a lot of Batman cowls, and a lot of them have been really good, and some of them have been really bad. And obviously, this is just the nature of the beast, because things have to progress and things get better over time. But for some reason, ever since Batman 89, we've been stuck in this loop of having the Batman cowl be either made of one solid piece that the actor has to manually put on, or two pieces in which the actor has to attach the cowl to the neck portion of it. And obviously the latter option was created so that actors actually have the ability to turn their head when wearing the cowl. And again, while these methods have given us some of the greatest live action Batman cowls, I do think that they limit how Batman's cowl can be implemented in certain ways. The most notable example of this would be Batman's hoodie cowl. If you grew up watching Batman animated shows or reading Batman comics, you know that in both of these fictional medias, Batman has always had a hoodie cowl that he can just pull over his head or pull off of his head at any given moment. And that's because in the comics and in animation, even though Batman's cowl is made of a very durable material, it still operates like a cloth fabric-like material, which gives it the elasticity and the flexibility necessary to stretch and harden when Batman needs it to. This is why even though Batman's cowl operates like a hoodie, it still has the ability to be very durable and protect him from things like bullets and other projectiles like energy blasts. And for the DCU Batman's cowl, I would want to go in this direction rather than the blocky one piece that he would just put on his head, or the two pieces that he would have to attach together. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. How are the costume designers going to go about doing something like that? And how is that going to make sense in this universe? To answer the first question, obviously the approach of how they design the cowl would have to be completely different. They would have to abandon the extremely solid materials that don't offer much flexibility for a more fabric and cloth-like material that will allow for that flexibility. Now again, I bet you're probably wondering, but wouldn't that make his mask flimsy? And you'd be right. However, there is a way that they can get around that. And the easiest way for them to get around that is to include framing and or padding inside of the fabric itself in the portions of the mask that need to be firm or hard. So for example, for Batman's nose area, his forehead, and his skull area, you can use this firm material under the fabric so that even though it's a stretchy fabric, when he actually puts on the mask, there is some structure to the mask and it's not just flimsy everywhere. An example of what I'm saying being implemented in live action would be none other than Spider-Man, in which they used a stretch fabric shell with a hidden urethane foam or plastic frame underneath. And this again allows for Spider-Man's spandex mask to have some actual facial structure while remaining elastic. And I think that for the DCU Batman's cowl, this is what they should utilize to give him the hoodie cowl. And as for the ears, obviously you could also put this same material so that the ears are pointy. Speaking of the ears, let's go over ear length. Now personally, I don't mind if Batman has short ears, medium ears, or long ears. But if I did have to pick one, I would lean towards longer ears. And I don't mean the ridiculously long ears that Kelly Jones draws in his art. I mean long ears more along the lines of how Jim Aparo draws his Batman. You could also throw in Neil Adams, Norm Brayfogle, and Alex Ross in there too. To me, these all have the perfect Batman ear length. And if the DCU Batman is really leaning into the supernatural, I do think that this is the right move. Because to me, it's really easy to make Batman look supernatural or scary when he has the long ears. And this brings me to the most controversial aspect of Batman's cowl, and that is, should he have the white eyes or not? Now, for those who think that Batman shouldn't have the white eyes, a lot of their argument surrounds around the fact that they think that the actor's eyes can convey a lot through the cowl, and when you have their regular eyes there, it makes the performance better. And while I can somewhat understand where they're coming from with that logic, I do somewhat disagree. And that's because to me, when Batman suits up and puts on his cowl and steps out into the shadows, he is no longer a man with human emotions to the casual that is seeing him. He is now Batman, the creature of the night, the mythical protector of Gotham City. And this is a consistent theme with his character because a lot of the people of Gotham City don't even treat him like he's a human. They treat him as if he's some godlike creature or supernatural being that they don't perceive to be real. And I think giving Batman the white eyes fully completes that illusion. And while you can say that an actor's performance might be more visible to the audience if the eyes are present, I'd honestly argue that for Batman specifically, you'd feel a lot more of the actor's performance through his mannerisms and how he moves, more so than his eyes. An example of this is Robert Pattinson, because while he did have great eyes as Batman and a lot of his looks were perfect, the real reason why to me he feels like Batman is because of how he moves through rooms, the way he walks, the way he analyzes things, the way he scans the room. It's not just his eyes that's doing the acting, it's his entire body. So again, I think that the white eyes being added would only amplify this, because now you're fully engulfed in this illusion of this creature of the night roaming around Gotham City. And this brings me to another important aspect of the cowl, and that is expression. Obviously, if we're going for a cloth-like stretchy fabric for the cowl, Batman isn't going to have the frowning expression built into the cowl already. And while Batman is a very serious character, I do think that it's better to not have him be in a constant perpetual state of frowning all the time. Because when Batman interacts with kids or regular civilians in the comics, this is how they are able to deduce that he is a good guy. It's because of how he interacts with them. If you put him in a consistent state of frowning, he's always going to look very menacing or off-putting to children or even regular civilians. So to solve this problem, I think that they should use VFX for Batman's white eyes to give him expression. And we've already seen this kind of thing done with characters like Spider-Man in the MCU and also Deadpool. So that way, when Batman is frowning and very angry, you can animate his eyes to look very angry. When Batman is happy or sad or interacting with a kid, you can make it so that the eyes look more friendly. And when you combine all of this with the actor's mannerisms and also the actor's Batman voice, I think that you can get an equal, if not better, performance than if the actor just had his regular eyes. Moving on to the second most important component of Batman's suit that also continues to further the illusion of Batman being a creature of the night, we have the cape. And again, like the cowl, I think that we've gotten some really good Batman capes over the course of his live action appearances. However, just like the cowl, I don't think that any Batman cape that we've gotten in live action has truly captured what Batman's cape is supposed to actually be. And I'm sure some of you guys are probably just like, what is this guy talking about? It's just a cape. But it's really not when it comes to Batman. Batman's cape is not the same cape as a character like Superman, Thor, Shazam, Martian Manhunter, etc., etc. And that's because while Batman's cape is obviously there to make him look heroic, just like the characters I just named, his cape is also there to make him look, again, like a creature of the night or a mythical being. And this is why in almost every Batman media that isn't live action, we see Batman with a cape that can cloak his entire body and give him the true illusion of being a creature. And this is exactly the kind of cape that I would give to the DCU Batman. Now the question is this practical and how could it be done? And the answer is actually quite simple. The answer is make the cape and the cowl one piece. Now under normal circumstances, this wouldn't be a viable option because of the fact that they used to make the cowls out of this thick rubbery material. But now that we're going for a more cloth and fabric like mask, we can actually continue that into the cape. And it's funny because this is actually how Batman's suit works in the comics as well. He can detach his mask from his cape, but he still typically has his cape and cowl as one piece, which is why when he pulls his cowl off, it can act as a hoodie. Now, the only potential drawback that I can see from using the cape and cowl in this way is that there might be a little bit of wrinklage in the neck area. And this may be because of the fact that the actor is going to have to actually be able to pull his head through that part of the cape and cowl so that he can actually wear it. But this honestly depends on the material that they use for for the fabric of the cape and cowl. And honestly, for a portion like the neck, you could probably switch out the material in that portion just so it's a little bit more stretchy, because Batman's neck isn't really going to be that exposed. Obviously, it's going to have to match whatever color you make the cowl and cape, but other than that, it doesn't really need to be super shiny around the neck area or have the same reflective effect that his cape and cowl usually has. But in the event that they're dead set on using the same exact material for the cape and the cowl, and they just can't seem to get it to be nice and tight in that area, you could honestly just go in and post and use VFX to like get rid of all the wrinkles. And this wouldn't be uncommon in superhero films, because they quite literally do this now to help get rid of wrinkles in superhero costumes anyway. With that being said, as far as the concept of the cape and cowl being one piece, I know that this is achievable because I've seen cosplay create beautiful Batman suits. For example, look at the cosplay that I'm currently showing right now. This is like arguably better than any Batman suit that we've gotten in live action from a design standpoint, not from like a material or budget standpoint, because obviously movies are going to have higher quality materials and fabrics because of the budget. But just as a concept and as a suit and the way it flows, it's just better, and it does everything that you would want a Batman suit to do. Which brings me to the next point about the cape. If the cape is over Batman's shoulders, how is it going to be practical for him to move? And much like this cosplayer did, you can simply make the cape a thin enough fabric to where if Batman needs to, he can roll it around his shoulders and then utilize his arms freely. And this is again something we quite literally see Batman implement in the animated series and in the comics. So this is definitely something that they should be able to pull off in live action, especially with big movie budget. And then we'll actually be able to get Batman scenes like this in the DCU.
Tell me about Faust.
If you genuinely watch that clip and still don't understand what I mean by Batman being a mythical creature of the night, then I don't know what to tell you. But what we just saw in that clip is the type of Batman that we need to see in the DCU. And to achieve that, the cape and cowl just have to be done in the way that I'm explaining, or a way that's very close to it. Now let's move on to a controversial aspect of the cape and cowl, and that is, what color should it be? Now obviously a lot of people want to see the blue in live action because we just haven't gotten a comic accurate blue Batman suit that actually looked good. But on the flip side, there's also a lot of people that just want to see Batman in black, and that's understandable because Batman has good costumes in both blue and black. And like I've mentioned before, I think I actually have a solution to accommodate both parties. And that solution is to simply give Batman a darker blue as the main color, so that in some lighting he looks like he's in a black costume, and in other lighting, when the light is hitting the suit, you can see the blue accents. A very popular example of this would be in cartoons like Batman the Animated Series or the Batman 2004. And again, this is something that's very achievable because we've also seen cosplayers pull this off. Another thing I also think is important for Batman's cape and cowl is for it to have some kind of shine to it. And I'm not gonna lie, this aspect has no real reason to be there. I just think it looks really cool, and it's always been a consistent thing with Batman suits. I feel like all of his costumes, whether in live action or comics or games, have always had a specific shine and glossiness to it when it's in the light that I always think should be there. That being said, that wraps up what I would do for the cape and cowl specifically. Now let's move into the actual base layer of the suit. For this portion, I have to be adamant about this because this is honestly one of my biggest gripes with Batman costumes in live action. And this gripe is that I don't want to see an armored Batman in the DCU. I don't think that Batman's base suit needs to have that much visible armor to the point where he looks like a tank man. And while I can admit some of these suits that have armor look good, like for example the Arkham games, I think that the Arkham suits look great, and also Robert Pattinson's suit looks pretty good. But these suits do not look better than the actual comic accurate bat suits. They just don't. And I'm well aware that that is my opinion, but I'm very confident that a lot of people agree with me. And because of the fact that we've been getting these armored suits for a very long time, I think that it's time for us to switch it up and do something different. And just to clarify, when I say Batman shouldn't have an armored suit, I don't mean that he shouldn't have armor in his suit at all. I simply mean that his suit's design shouldn't indicate that he's wearing a ton of armor to the people that see him. Thugs and criminals in Gotham City shouldn't know that Batman is bulletproof until they shoot at him and it does nothing. And honestly, I still wouldn't even want Batman to rely on the fact that he is bulletproof because he dodges bullets consistently in the source material, and I would like to see that actually portrayed in live action as well. So sure, Batman can have armor, his armor just shouldn't look like armor, if that makes sense. With that being said, as for the material of Batman's base layer, I think that Ben Affleck's Batsuit in Batman vs Superman is a very good starting point for the direction that they should go in. Now obviously Ben Affleck's suit does have a lot of fake muscles in it, and I don't think that fake muscles always look the best in suits. However, I do think that they can serve their purpose to complement the actor's physique and make it look a little bit better. So if I did add fake muscles to the suit, it would be at a very minimal amount. Think Brandon Routh's suit in the CW, where he had some muscle padding, but it still didn't look like it was overdone. Back to the fabric / material of the base layer of the suit, I don't think that they should utilize the same exact material that they use for the cape and cowl, because I don't think that Batman himself does that in the source material. In fact, in the comics, Batman uses 15 micro layers of Nomex reinforced fabrics. And as for his cape is still bulletproof and able to absorb energy, but it's made out of smart armor, his own created component. And this is why Batman's cape is able to be extremely flexible and also harden when he needs it to. This is why he can use it as a shield to block energy blasts and bullets, and also use it as a glider, and it could also flow very nicely. As far as his base layer being made of triple weave Kevlar, this is why it's very durable and can act as an armor, even though it looks like a very cloth-like fabric material. And again, when designing the costume in the DCU, I think that this should be the thought process. So they should definitely use a cloth-like fabric or a very form-fitting material. And to suspend the audience's disbelief, in the movie you can explain it by having Batman just showcase his intelligence in being able to make a material that is this durable but still act as a fabric, which again would just be comic accurate and be perfectly in line with things that we've seen in this already very fantastical DC universe. If Lex Luthor can recreate the Big Bang in the DCU, there's no reason why Batman, the second smartest human being in DC continuity, shouldn't be able to make a fabric that acts as an armor. As for the color of this material, I think that it should just be gray, specifically a lighter gray. I think that the grays that we've gotten in Batman suits have always been very dark or muted, and I think that in this universe a lighter gray would fit perfectly. And again, Batman just typically wears a lighter gray anyway. Now we move on to the gloves / gauntlets and the boots, which is probably the least controversial aspect of this suit. And that's because whether you decide to make these armored or cloth-like, it doesn't really matter because they're just his gloves and his boots. Obviously in the source material, Batman has sported both looks, so it's also accurate, but again, it kind of just doesn't really change much about the suit in the grand scheme of things, unless you for some reason get rid of the 3 iconic blades that he has on the gauntlets, which I don't think anyone would do. That being said, if I was designing Batman's suit, I would be fine with this aspect of his suit looking a little bit more armored because, like I said, it's been done before and it's looked fine before. However, I would just make sure that it still looks very sleek and simplistic. I wouldn't go over the top and make his gauntlets super bulky or his boots extra bulky. And because Batman utilizes his gauntlets and boots in the comics to hold tech, I think that it makes a little bit more sense for these parts of his suit to be armored. For example, in the comics, Batman has seismic knuckles that he has built into his gauntlets that allow him to punch way above his weight class, and he can activate these with voice command. So if he has an armored looking gauntlet already and he activates it, it makes sense to the viewer because you can just see the armor activate itself. Obviously there has been instances where we see the cloth-like gauntlets do the same thing, but because it's art, it's easier to pull it off. And this isn't to say that it can't be pulled off in live action because they could easily just CGI the material on there, to be honest. But again, because this is so inconsequential, I wouldn't mind if they decided to armor this part of his suit up. Next up, we have another extremely controversial aspect of Batman's suit, and that is the symbol. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I pretty much like all of Batman's symbols in the comics, besides Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns symbol. I think that it's way too bulky and it just looks kind of weird. I also kind of hate the Absolute Batman symbol for the same exact reason, but I don't think that they would utilize either of those logos in this universe, so I'm not really worried. With that being said, that begs the question, should he have the black bat for his logo? Should he have the Rebirth logo where it's the black bat with a yellow outline? Or should he have the yellow oval with the black bat inside of it? Again, if I'm being honest, I am a fan of all of these symbols and I wouldn't be mad with any of them. However, if I had to pick, I would probably lean more towards the yellow oval because of the fact that I grew up with Batman the Animated Series. and that's just the Batman costume for me. The 1970s and 80s is also my favorite era of Batman comics, and that's just the look that he sported at that time. So yes, I'm a little biased for the yellow oval. But again, like I said, I would not be mad with the black bat or the rebirth symbol. Now that I think about it though, I do think that the yellow oval or the rebirth symbol would be ideal because it would help differentiate from Robert Pattinson's Batman, because he also kind of just has a black bat even though it's like a metal plate. Either way, like I said, that's neither here nor there. I'm fine with either symbol, and if I had to pick, it would be the yellow oval. Moving on to the moment you guys have all probably been waiting for, and this is the most controversial aspect of Batman's suit, and that is, should he have the trunks or should he not have the trunks? And I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys when I say this. There's no reason for Batman to not have trunks. Genuinely, every argument that I've heard as to why he shouldn't have trunks is easily disproven. The first and most common argument that you'll hear is that Batman is a creature of the night and he's supposed to look scary and not silly. And to that, I've always said that Batman being scary is largely due to how the movie is directed and shot. If you shoot the movie in a way to make Batman look scary, he's going to appear scary. If you direct the actor that's playing Batman to carry himself in a way that would be scary, he's going to come off as scary. Obviously, to us, it's Batman and he's a superhero, so he's not really going to be scary anyway. But for what they're trying to convey in the movie, he's going to be scary regardless of if he has trunks or not. And as far as the looking silly aspect, I don't think that the trunks look silly at all. In fact, I think that the trunks do a great job of breaking up the colors in the suit, the same way they do for Superman and every other character that wears trunks in the comics. Another thing I'd also say is that the scariest versions of Batman have trunks. For example, main continuity comic book Batman wears trunks. Arkham Batman wore trunks. The trunks genuinely do not affect how intimidating Batman is, especially after you just watched him clear a room of like 50 dudes in like 2 minutes with just martial arts skills. Another argument that a lot of people try and say is that the trunks really serve no purpose outside of aesthetics. And again, if we look to the source material, this is just factually incorrect. For example, as recent as Batman 2016 number 126, written by Chip Zdarsky, we find out that Batman actually told Superman himself that the trunks are a good idea because they can have a practical use. And this is because as Batman is falling from outer space, he's able to utilize his fireproof trunks to cover his mouth from being exposed to the re-entry heat, meaning that the trunks can actually act as a form of armor, which again is something that they could explain for the DCU Batman if he wears trunks, which I think he should. Another way that they could explain Batman wearing trunks is that he can do it for a similar reason as to why Superman does, and that is so that kids aren't afraid of him. Obviously, we know in the DCU it's canon for David Cornsweet's Superman to wear trunks because he wants to be welcoming to all people, including children. He essentially wants to look like a superhero. And if Batman and Superman are friends in this universe, which I think they already are, it would make sense for Batman to be inspired by Superman's actions. And honestly, you could even make it so that Batman prior to meeting Superman didn't wear trunks, and that's something that he added after meeting Superman. And this would again be lore accurate.
New look, sidekick. You mind if I ask you?
As a matter of fact, I do. Let's just say I set out to scare criminals, not children.
So again, if I wasn't already clear enough, Batman should definitely have trunks in the DCU. It's about time. And as far as the utility belt, I think it's time we go back to the bright gold utility belt that actually pops and gives more color to the suit. As for how I would want the belt itself to look, I would just want it to actually have compartments so it looks like Batman can actually pull gadgets out of those compartments. So anything from batarangs to smoke bombs to flashbangs to concussions to tranquilizers and to knockout gas should be able to fit in this utility belt, and you can explain it by Batman creating miniature versions of these gadgets or folding versions of these gadgets, because that's what he does in the source material. For example, his batarangs actually fold into the pouches that he has, which allows him to carry multiple batarangs at a time. And as for his other projectiles, again, these just come in miniature pellets or capsules so that they can all fit within the other pouches of the belt. So long story short, let's just bring back Batman's utility belt actually having a purpose, and let's bring back it having some color to it. So ladies and gentlemen, when it's all said and done, my ideal DCU Batsuit is going to look like something along the lines of this. And to me, the examples that I'm showing right now are just peak Batsuits. Obviously, you're allowed to disagree and have your own opinions, but I feel confident that I speak for a lot of people when I say that this is the type of suit that we would want to see the DCU Batman in. With that being said, that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Also, hype the video again if you haven't already. And as always, I'll catch you boys in the next one. It's been K the God.